Hello everyone, this is James Johnson, aka Sulfurblade, and I'm back with an unusual episode. I actually want to talk about CBS's, the television network's fall lineup. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but I watch my fair share of television, and I do seem to watch CBS more than the other networks. So much so that I felt like critiquing my favorites and least favorite of CBS's fall shows. And so we'll start off with Bull. Um, Bull is one heck of a great show as far as I'm concerned. I love watching this interesting use of a psychiatrist attempting to analyze people or predict their patterns of behavior, and the way that it's being used to determine the outcomes of court cases through the use of jury selection is just a very unique way of looking at such a profession and ways in which it can be used. And then, of course, there's the underlying dramatic portions where there's a story in each episode, and I think that the stories are very well done. This feels like a show where I don't have to watch it in order. I can sit down and watch any episode and I'm not going to be really lost, but each and every episode is going to be enjoyable to watch. And I think Bull is one of the best shows that's currently on TV. I give 2 big thumbs up for Bull, and highly recommend the show if you have never seen it before. Obviously, the star of the show is Anthony Donoso, former sidekick of Leroy Jethro Gibbs from NCIS. But he's struck it out, and he's basically he's formed his own show where he's the main figure of the show, and I think he has amazing presence, and it's good to see him being the focus of a show. I really appreciate Bull, and again, I highly recommend this for anyone who hasn't seen it. Alright, next up to bats, we have FBI. This is so Bulls, I think, is on its 2nd season. FBI is on its maiden season, and it portrays exactly what you would expect. The FBI and how it deals with various different criminal cases from the viewpoints of these 2 individuals you see in the picture. The one has a background of basically he's been in a lot of undercover. Obviously, he's Arabic background, so he's likely been used for various counterterrorism purposes. He's seen bad things done in the name of the Muslim faith, and he's obviously of Muslim faith. So he's kind of like the anti-hero, if you will. And then she's kind of different. She's kind of a hardcore female, as you see in so many shows as of late, where there's more and more kind of female leading ladies who have to I don't know, play a harder version of a leading character than a male would, and she is often you see a lot of personal conflict with her character, and then we're slowly seeing these two's working development as they're recently been paired together, and how that's unfolding after the loss of her last partner. FBI seems to be a fairly normal crime thriller. It's nothing special, but it's solid. It's worth watching. It's not boring. It doesn't dumb down your intellect, but it's you know it's no it's not the greatest show either. It's a solid time filler if you don't have anything else to watch, and that's what I'll say about FBI. All right, next up to bats is God Friended Me. I really I find this show growing on me. It's possibly controversial in that obviously the plot around it is kind of religion based, but I think it does so in a way that doesn't really seem like they're forcing religion on the viewer. I think it actually does a good job of portraying the various different sides of the religious discussion within the show itself, and it allows you, the viewer, to formulate your own conclusions. There are some terrible plot holes in this show, as we have two people that work in an office job that they work at kind of a telephone answering business, but yet they can seem to leave their job whenever they want, and they seem to have an awful lot of leeway in their working environment. But other than that plot hole, which helps facilitate the rest of the show is also a little bit feels almost naive at how nice, trusting, happy, good everybody is in the giant city of New York. This is a very friendly show. It shows nothing but wholesome goodness most of the time, and even the drama within the show itself, it's always drama that is not really bad. So you watch this show and you get this kind of sense of really feeling good, because you're watching these characters that are so overwhelmingly nice, and they do such nice things. And that's the premise of the show, is watching these people go out and attempt to help people that they don't know anything about. And oftentimes you have to wonder about how hard this is for the writers, because you have people that have never met each other, and all of a sudden this random person is there wanting to help them, desperately wanting to help them, and it's like, I don't know you from Adam, why do you want to help me? And so as a writer, how do you write stuff like that? But God Friended Me seems to be doing a fairly decent job of writing that, and unlike so many shows today, I think it shows a nice utopian world, and I think it's a good thing to see on TV. I think it's a good thing to make people feel hopeful and feel good about life. And so if you want to watch a show that's happy and upbeat, God Friended Me is definitely a good choice for your viewing habit. Here we have Hawaii Five-0. We've had several seasons now of Hawaii Five-0, and of all of the shows that have quote unquote been recreated or brought back to life, I think Hawaii Five-0 is my favorite. I do remember watching the old Hawaii Five-0 and I quite enjoyed it, but for most shows that get brought back to life, you fondly look back at the old show as being, well, better. And it's very rare that you might actually be able to make an argument to say that the new show is, if not as good, maybe even possibly better. And that's actually how I feel about Hawaii Five-O. Hawaii Five-O has come quite a ways. It's gone through various different characters. It seems to be on the NCIS train of revolving character doors. But through all that, you have the two constants. You have Danny and Commander McGarrett and their bromance, and it combines a nice mix of action, of the type of stuff that a guy wants to sit down and have a beer and watch and see some shooting and some action, and it combines that in such a way that there's also an element of friendship and loyalty and family. There's an underlying element of this whole family, Hawaii Five-O unit being family, and I think that it combines the action and that type of show together quite well with the other elements to give you a show that while may not be something that's going to challenge your intellectual challenge you at an intellectual level, it definitely is an enjoyable view if you're into action, drama, and just an overall fun bromance, if you will, to watch. I give 2 thumbs up to Hawaii Five-O. I think it's definitely a top-notch show. Alright, next up we have Madam Secretary. Madam Secretary is absolutely one of my favorite shows on TV. And we've had several seasons of Madam Secretary. The problem with this last season is that while Madam Secretary is obviously a show that revolves around politics, being the Secretary of State, the shows previously to this season have been very good at portraying politics, her job, and things that she does in, well, pardon a political term, but a bipartisan way. It really felt like Madam Secretary was something that anyone could watch. Republican, Democrat, Independent, whoever you were, you could watch Madam Secretary, and you had this feeling that there was this country-ish girl, this girl who obviously she came from the CIA, but after she got out of the CIA as an analyst, she went to her horse farm. You know, she definitely wasn't low class, but you know, she knew the president, having worked with him at Langley. But you got a feeling that she was down to earth, and that she was coming into politics not from any particular way, but from the outlook of just an average normal person. And most of the episodes have always been about her trying to pursue things correctly and right. But this season, there has been a lot of attempts at adding real politics into the show. A lot of underlying nitpicks at our own political atmosphere, and it hasn't been very enjoyable to watch. I don't watch TV so that I can get I don't know, political barbs or jabs about the current state of affairs. I watch TV so that I can enjoy the fantasy world. And I think Madam Secretary, at least the early part of this season, has taken a few wrong turns. But right now, we're midway through the season, and things have seemingly cooled down a little bit, and it's improved. But definitely the first couple of episodes, there was definitely a lot of attempts to utilize the show for political messaging, and I really wasn't a fan of that at all. But it's good to see that Madam Secretary is starting to get back on track and away from the political theatrics that stemmed it earlier at the beginning of the year. All right, next up is Magnum PI. I was very, very hesitant about watching this show. Magnum PI to me is, well, that's my childhood. I grew up watching Tom Selleck as Magnum PI, and I don't know. There was just something special about that show for me. And so to see Magnum being remade, I started watching this show very, very, very hesitantly. And I have to say, it hasn't been horrible. I don't think this is a Hawaii Five-0. I don't think this is on par with the original Magnum. It's definitely not better than the original Magnum, but it's watchable. And I think that is saying a lot. If you can take this show that I was almost for sure was going to be terrible, because, well, you can't do Magnum PI again. You can't do it as good as Tom Selleck. You just can't recreate Magnum PI. They're doing some of the right things. Even as the show is progressing, there's little hints, little details that bring it kind of nostalgically closer to the original one. Like in the last episode, Higgins got him a shirt, and that shirt just happened to be, the famous Hawaiian shirt type that Tom Selleck used to wear. There's just little things like that in each episode that hint at the original show. And so watching the new show, and having been a former watcher of the original Magnum, it's almost like they are paying homage. And whenever those moments happen, it kind of brings a smile to my face. It's like, okay, I can watch this Magnum because it appreciates its roots, if you will. And the actor isn't horrible. I was a little hesitant about a Hispanic actor trying to play Tom Selleck, but he's doing a pretty decent job. And the real sketchy thing that really I had a hard time with was Magnum as a female, or Higgins as a female. But it's growing on me. I really kind of like this Higgins character. She is, it's a different dynamic, obviously, between Higgins and Magnum, but it's working so far. And as long as it keeps going as it is, it's watchable. It's not better than the original Magnum by a long shot, but it's a good time filler. And so I think it's fairly successful, even if it's not an amazing show. So that's what I'll say about Magnum. And then there's NCIS Los Angeles, which there's been quite a few seasons of NCIS Los Angeles, and I just have to wonder if the writers are eventually going to write themselves out of a show. It especially seems that, especially this season, that that life in the NCIS Los Angeles world is just going to go into the birds. But I have always enjoyed NCIS Los Angeles, probably even more so than the original NCIS. There's always been something about NCIS Los Angeles that I just preferred more than the original NCIS. And it, I still like NCIS Los Angeles, but I don't know. It seems like maybe they're losing their way a little bit, and I think part of that is some of the characters. Well, one of the characters I enjoyed so much is has been basically pushed right out of the picture. Hetty, Hetty brought so much to NCIS Los Angeles that uh, with the gap of her not being there, and with these other directors and these other people, and the whole ongoing storyline of having to deal with the absence of Hetty, and the bringing in of new management and the bashing of heads, that it feels like a show that's very unsure of its future. And we're watching a show about an NCIS agency and team that seems to be unsure of its future, and it almost seems like the writing is paralleling the show itself. But needless to say, I've always enjoyed NCIS Los Angeles, so I'm always going to watch it. You know, I've invested myself into Kalen and Sam and Deeks and all the characters, and I've liked watching them grow. And I like the fact that they haven't been killed off like the original NCIS. So there's a lot to be said in regards to NCIS Los Angeles that I like. I hope it keeps going. But it's had its ups and downs. But I continue to watch it. It's a solid show. It's still a lot better than a lot of the other programs that are on TV these days. And so as long as it's still, head and tails better than most of the programming, I'm going to continue to watch it, even if it's starting to get a little long in the tooth, if you will. So I appreciate NCIS Los Angeles, and I also appreciate NCIS. I'm not sure if I have put that one into this slideshow or not, but the original NCIS is probably on the tail end of my shows that I watch on CBS if I have to have the choice. It's going to be one of the last ones I watch of the shows I actually watch, which, if you're among the shows that I actually watch, you're a pretty good show in my opinion. But yeah, NCIS itself has gone through quite a storied time period. Lots of people have come and gone. But there's no more Anthony DiNozzo, and so NCIS itself is, kind of old and hard to watch without Anthony DiNozzo there to watch. But anyway, let's move on to SEAL Team. SEAL Team, I think, is one of the best new shows that CBS has brought into their lineup. Obviously, I tend to like action shows, and there's a lot of action to watch in SEAL Team. But at the same time, SEAL Team has done a very good job of representing a lot of the behind-the-scene things that you don't quite think about when you think about the SEALs. When you think about the SEALs, you think about, the heroes that go and take down Osama bin Laden, or are on the most dangerous missions. But you generally don't think about their families, and you don't think about what their families have to go through, and the very topsy-turvy relationships, how hard the military is on relationships, all of these things that, if you've ever been in the military, or you've ever been around the military, maybe dated military, whatever, you experience, you see firsthand. I'm former U.S. Navy myself, and there's a story that if the Navy wanted you to have a family, they would put the family in your sea bag. But because everything that you need as a sailor it can fit in your sea bag, and obviously family can't quite fit in there. And that's kind of a poignant thing to say, in that, you know, it's a very hard deal to survive, for relationships to survive the distance, the away, and in this case the danger, the everyday danger of possibly losing a loved one. Yeah, definitely hard challenges, and this show does a very good job of portraying these real issues, and it also does a really good job of portraying the SEALs and portraying the military in general. So often you see so many Hollywoodized shows that haven't done their research. You know, simple things like SEALs are going to be enlisted. They got that right. You know, the person back in the office is the officer. He's the one that's is like the liaison between whoever and whoever. And as the officer, he has, you know, the overall operational command, but he's not on the ground. Oftentimes, people falsely believe that officers are doing everything that the enlisted people really do, and it's good to see that type of thing being actually portrayed correctly, especially in this show, the SEAL Team. So again, I like SEAL Team. I think SEAL Team is a great show, one of the better new programs on CBS, and I give it 2 big thumbs up. Next on the line is Tell Me a Story. This show is the reason I'm doing this video, because all the other shows are shows that I like, and I like a lot. Tell Me a Story is one of the first shows that have invoked so much strong feelings from me. And generally, that's a good trait for a good show, right? A good show should invoke strong feelings from you. But not this show. This show invokes strong negative feelings from me. I'm shocked after watching the first episode of this show. We see the one leading, one of the main characters in full nudity on a network, you know, his butt, his side view. They don't actually show his package, but they show everything but. And this is on a network. The content of this show, what it portrayed, drugs were everywhere. They portrayed so many negative aspects of today's society, like they're flippantly normal. Everyone is a single father. Everyone is addicted to drugs. Everyone is scared of the world. Everyone thinks the world is going to hell. Everyone's desperate. Everyone's robbing jewelry stores. Everyone's getting shot. I mean, so they spent so much time setting up this one character and his desire to have a family, his desire to bring a life into this world, and his girlfriend, who wanted to avoid that. She didn't want to bring a life into this world because this world is all screwed up and messed up, and there's no way she could bring a life into this world. He gets mad at her, and he's like, you know, you can't be so pessimistic. You can't be so cynical. And convinces her. The next day, she surprises him and takes him to a jewelry store. Proposes to him. The girl proposes to the guy. Yet another, you know, little way of pointing at what our society's like in modern day. A woman proposing to the guy. Okay, that's all cool and everything. But as they're picking out their rings, these desperate guys come in to rob the store. She gets shot. They spent so much time building her up in the first episode just so that they could then have her shot. The one who decided to take the gamble to get married, to, okay, bring a kid into this horrible world, and they just, it was like a self-fulfilling promise that this world is horrible, that there is no hope for this world. And that's what this show resonated in one episode, that this world is doomed and there's no hope. I've never seen a show so negative, so gloomy. There was no hope. There was no light at the end of this tunnel. That why anyone would want to watch this show is beyond me. How this show was allowed to be aired on network TV with its rated R content is baffling me. I've seen R-rated shows that were more G than this television show was. So, with that being said, I strongly do not recommend watching Tell Me a Story. I, in fact, think that everybody should drastically avoid watching that show, and that's one of the worst shows I have ever seen put on TV in the entirety of my life. With that being said, that's CBS's fall lineup. We've got some decent shows, and then we have just a horrible thing, a show so bad that it's the reason I'm honestly doing this video. Because oftentimes, when we decide to do something, it's not because of good. We don't often want to talk about the good things that happen in life. We often want to talk about the really bad things. And so, I guess this is my way to vent and talk about the really, really bad show. Maybe the worst show I've ever seen in my life. Bar none. So, maybe I can help you out, but do not watch the first episode of Tell Me a Story. If any of the rest of the episodes are like that, don't watch any episode of Tell Me a Story. And I think I somehow missed one of my CBS shows that didn't make it into this lineup. There's one about following a dollar around. I thought that was done quite well, and I'm just going to make a quick talk about it, since I didn't make it into the slideshow presentation, but the $1 CBS show is actually pretty well done. It shows a slideshow of a working class American town from many different points of views. It's not the greatest show that's ever existed, but I think it's done in such a way that it captured various ways of looking at a situation, and it does so in a very compelling way. So I appreciate that show. I give it a couple thumbs up as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know this wasn't a video game review. I know this wasn't me doing Let's Play of a video game. This is something that's very, very, very different. This is me talking about TV shows. And If I maybe brought some TV shows to attention that you might be interested in trying out, cool. Maybe I've just reinforced things you already knew about some of your favorite shows, and you're like, yeah, I agree, that's a great show. Or, you know, maybe you think I'm crazy, and you think I have a horrible taste in TV shows, which, yeah, to each their own. We all have our own tastes. I'm obviously a middle-aged adult male that appreciates drama, action. I'm not a big comedy person. Obviously, you haven't seen The Big Bang Theory here. You haven't seen Young Sheldon. It's not that these are bad shows. It's just that they're not my cup of tea. I haven't. It's been a long time since I've really appreciated comedies, and you know, I loved Black Sheep Squadron. I loved McHale's Navy. I loved MASH. MASH is the last comedy that I really watched every episode of. And it seems like comedies of today are funny, but they just don't have the drama to go along with it to make them feel like they're worth watching, if that makes any sense. So anyway, this has been Jaames Johnson, aka Sulfurblade, telling you about CBS's Fall Lineup. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, peace.